When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Now's the time to save 30% on wedding jewelry, only on BlueNile.com. Make sure your wedding ring is the one, with your pick of diamond and lab-grown diamond bands, all hand-finished and graded for excellence. Or surprise her with something blue she'll love for life, like a stunning pair of sapphire earrings. Blue Nile's jewelry experts are available 24/7 to help, from fit questions to style advice. Right now, get up to 30% off at BlueNile.com. BlueNile.com.
The Two-Footed Podcast is brought to you by EPLindex.com and our presenting sponsor, Liberty Shield. Liberty Shield is a VPN provider. A virtual privacy network allows you to go online, change your location, access things you're geo-blocked from, while keeping your data safe. So, as an example, if you are a UK expat and want access to BBC iPlayer to watch Match of the Day or ITV Hub or all four, but you get that message that says this content is not available in your location, a Liberty Shield VPN gets you around that block, allows you to watch whatever you want on those services while also keeping your data safe. And it goes further than that. It allows you to open up Netflix's entire library by just changing your IP address. Liberty Shield is the #1 rated VPN provider on Trustpilot with 5-star ratings across the board. So go to libertyshield.com right now, use the code EPL25 and get either the hardware package or the software package. The hardware package is a router that you plug into your existing router, and any item you want to change the IP address on, be it your phone or your television, you connect that to the new Liberty Shield router. All other items can remain connected to your existing router. There's also a software package which is instantly downloadable to your device and you can get using straight away. Again, libertyshield.com, EPL25 for 25% off at checkout. We're also brought to you by Home of Hopcroft, a giftware and homeware company located in Scotland but shipping worldwide. Check out homeofhopcroft.co.uk and do check out the EPL Index and Anfield Index shops, which you'll find on Etsy. Use the codes EPL10 or RED10 for 10% off at checkout. And lastly, do remember to check out A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. That podcast is on this feed before every Premier League match week. And then the EPL Roundtable, hosted by Kevin DeVries, on its own EPL Roundtable feed. So just search EPL Roundtable in your podcast device. And that's out after every match week. Now, on with the show. What's good, boys and girls? Two-Footed Podcast. Today is Wednesday. It is the 19th of June, and I hope you're all doing well. Before we get into today's pod, I do just want to send all good thoughts and vibes to Eddie Gibbs and family who are dealing with a medical illness in his family. His father was taken ill yesterday. I'm not speaking out of school. Eddie has said it publicly on social media, so it's out there. And horrible, horrible news. Hopefully his father can make a full recovery. It is always a very difficult situation. I went through this myself 6 years ago, later this year, when my own stepfather had a heart attack. So he recovered fully and is actually in the best health he's ever been in years and years and years. So fingers crossed for Eddie's dad. Send all your best wishes. Send your best thoughts. Keep them in your prayers. The Gibbs family are good people. Right, folks. Euro 2024. I didn't want to enjoy the competition. I wanted to stand on my porch, to shout at people to get off my lawn, to walk onto said lawn, shout at the clouds, and just be a grumpy old man. Because international football in general, has been extremely poor for basically 18 years now. However, this competition thus far has been pretty good. We have completed the first match day. Now, Germany-Scotland wasn't much of a game. Germany smacked the shit out of it. Hungary-Switzerland was a pretty good game. Spain-Croatia was interesting. We saw quite a bit from Spain. I thought the first half of Italy-Albania was very good. The second half was decent. Poland versus the Netherlands was a good game. Slovenia-Denmark was a decent game. England-Serbia was a bore fest. Romania really put a marker down and let everybody know that they might not be fully back, but they're building back towards being somewhat of a force, somewhat of a team that no one wants to play against on the international stage. We had Slovakia upsetting Belgium. The Austria-France game, bit of a bore fest. Turkey versus Georgia was absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. The Turks went one up through Mert Molnar. Absolute scorcher of a volley. Great, great goal. And then they scored again, but it was ruled out for offside correctly. Then Mikitadze scores 7 minutes later to equalise after a lovely bit of work down the right by the Georgians. Second half is just a tremendous game. And Arda Güler lights it up with an absolute rocket of a left-footed shot. It's going to be very, very hard to beat for goal of the tournament. What I loved about this goal is he doesn't try to kick the leather off. Like, go and watch that goal and just watch. He generates immense power. But it's such a smooth striking action. It's a phenomenal goal. And both goals have to be incredible to beat the Georgian keeper. Because Maradashvili is enormous. And both of those goals are completely unsavable. But then Georgia really went knocking on the door. Now, they've been the better team up until in the second half. Turkey with the better team first half. Georgia with the better team second half. But Güler scores. But the Georgians didn't let their heads drop. And they kept going and they kept going and they kept going. And they created some decent chances. And Mikitadze himself, who'd missed a good chance in the first half after he scored, missed a really good chance in the second half. There were other opportunities, but they couldn't find a goal. And then in stoppage time, they send the goalkeeper forward for set pieces, and the Turks catch them with an empty net and just run the ball in. And it ends 3-1. The game itself was not a 3-1 game of football. 2-2 would have been a perfect representation of what we saw, but it was a tremendous game. After that, then, we had Portugal 2, Czech Republic 1, or Czechia. I'm not sure which I meant to call them. I tried looking it up, and it says that they go by both. So I assume it's still cool if I go by Czech Republic, because that's just what I have imprinted in my head. If I'm wrong about that, please do let me know, and I will endeavour to change. Lucas Provod put the Czech team 1-up on 62 minutes. It had been pretty much all Portugal to that point, but a sucker punch from the Czechs put Portugal behind. That lead lasted only 7 minutes, and it's just a really unfortunate goal. There's a cross clipped in by Vitinha. Nuno Mendes appears at the back post. He tries to head it across goal. Doesn't really make a good job of it. Stanek, the goalkeeper, I'm not really sure what he's trying to do. I feel like he should catch that ball. He dives down and sort of palms it out, but he's palming it into the most dangerous area of the pitch. And unfortunately, it hits Franek, the centre-back, and deflects into the net. So the Portuguese are back in it. It felt like it was going to end 1-1, but then Pedro Neto and Sergio Conceição, or Francisco Conceição, son of Sergio Conceição, come off the bench on like 90 minutes. Inacio finds Neto. Neto does what Neto does, takes people on, gets into a good spot. His cross is not a good one, and it deflects back off a Czech defender into the path of Conceição, who taps home to give Portugal a win. On balance of play, they did deserve it, but the fears I had for them were absolutely out there for all to see. Cristiano should not be starting games at this level anymore, and Roberto Martinez is simply not a good football manager. There's a great team waiting to be unleashed in that Portuguese squad. This is not the fella who's going to get the best out of it, and nobody's going to get the best out of it as long as Cristiano is in the team. And then today, we have just finished Croatia 2, Albania 2. And this was just a brilliant match. So, Albania go 1-up on 11 minutes. Vlaci's header. Could the goalkeeper have done better? It's very close to him. I have a tough time criticising him on that. It's very close to his feet. He gets down, gets a hand to it, can't keep it out. I think it's just a really well-worked goal and a good header, and a really well-directed header to get it low from that distance with that kind of pace on it. I think that's just really good. Croatia dominated the ball as we'd expect them to do, and Albania were happy to live on the counter. But unlike in the Italian game, they didn't give up a quick goal. They were able to hold their lead from the 11th minute all the way to the 74th minute. But then Kramaric equalises. And then Albania just fall apart for like 3 minutes. And all of a sudden, they're 2-1 down. Yasula with an own goal. And it looks like after what had been an outstanding performance from the Albanians, they were going to end with nothing. But as with the Georgians the day before, they didn't let their heads go. They just upped the ante. And they decided that what we're going to do here is we're going to have a glorified game of basketball. And we're going to make this absolutely end-to-end stuff. And that's basically what it was. From the minute the second Croat goal went in until the final whistle, which I think was like the 99th minute, it was just end-to-end. And in the 95th minute, they worked the ball down the left. Really nice build-up. Ball played across, and Yasula, who'd put it into his own net, having come on as a sub, I don't think he touched the ball before he scored the own goal. He arrives in the box. It's a lovely cultured finish that gives Livakovic absolutely no chance. Just a brilliant, brilliant game. Sign me up for more of that. Now, today, we also have Germany versus Hungary, and we have Scotland versus Switzerland. So those should be two decent games. Obviously, the Germans hammered the Scots. Hungary lost the Swiss. So Hungary needs something from this game, ideally. The Swiss and the Germans can guarantee themselves a spot in the knockout phase with wins today. And you would be fancying both of them to win. Do we have team news? We do. So, the German team, Manuel Neuer will start goal. Joshua Kimmich, Antonio Rudiger, and Jonathan Tah and Mittelstadt in the defensive line. That's the same back four and goalkeeper, obviously, that played the first game. Andrich and Cruz in midfield. That's the same as well. Musiala, Gundogan, and Wirtz. Again, that's the same. And Kai Havertz up front. So, no changes from the Germans. I did think we might see one. Wasn't overly impressed with Jonathan Tah in the first game. And I do think that defence improves enormously if Schlotterbeck comes in for him. I do also think that David Raum is a better left-back than Mittelstadt. But look, Mittelstadt has the shirt and he's not playing badly. So Tah out and Schlotterbeck in is the only change I'd really be looking to make there. For the Hungarians, there are multiple changes. So Gulaxi will start in goal. He did start the last game. They've gone same shape with the back three. So Willy Urban will play in the middle of the back three. Urban did start there in the first game. Adam Lang and Attila Zala have both been dropped, with Fiola coming in on the right and Derdai coming in on the left. Across the middle then, Fiola started actually on the right in the first game. So he's dropping from right wing back to right side centre back. So that's a fair move there. It also means that we have coming in at right wing back Bola, who I'm pretty certain came off. Yeah, he came off the bench in the first game. Nagy and Schaefer in the centre of midfield. That is the same pairing that played the first game. We've got Kirkes at left wing back. Again, that's the same. Zalai and Sabozlai behind Vargas. So the same attack. 3 of the midfield remains the same, with the only change being right wing back. And then 2 of the centre backs are changing. One of them being Fiola coming back, right wing back, right centre back. Lang was taken off at half time in the first game, and Fiola did drop into that position. So that's how they saw out that game. Zala had an absolute stinker. There I was bigging him up before the competition. What a shite bag to let me down like that. Anyway, so this should be a decent game. I'm looking forward to this one. I'm hopeful that the Hungarians can put on a good show, because I really want to see Stabozlai and Kirkes play well, because they're both really, really good players. And there's other good players in that team as well, like Zala, like Schaefer. So I want to see them do well. But I do fancy the Germans to win the game. That game is due to kick off in about 20 minutes. So that is us caught up on the European Championships. Later tonight, we will obviously get that Scotland versus Switzerland game. And then tomorrow, we have a full slate. We have Slovenia, Serbia, Denmark versus England. That's the 5 p.m. And then Spain, Italy is the last one. So that's a really good day of games. Slovenia, Serbia is interesting because obviously it's a kind of a rivalry game. Denmark, England. England were not good in the first game. They weren't bad. They weren't good. And it will be interesting to see if they can up their game against the Danes. And then Spain, Italy, I think, is one that everybody's looking forward to. So, yeah, tomorrow should be good. Today, so far, has been good, and hopefully the Germany-Hungary game continues that. Scotland are not an enjoyable team to watch, so I don't know how good that game against Switzerland is going to be, but there's some good players on the Swiss side, and they'll be looking to play some football. And maybe Scotland, after the hammering they got, maybe they come out and play with a bit of pride and actually have a go at this game. So there we go. I'm going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to get into the next team on our list of Premier League teams that we are reviewing and advising for the summer. See you after this. Right, welcome back. So, next on our list then is Liverpool, who have actually just today properly unveiled Arne Slot as the new manager. And so they begin a new era after Jurgen Klopp's 8.75 year tenure at the club. Last season, Liverpool finished third in the Premier League. They won the EFL Cup. They got to the quarterfinal of the FA Cup, and they reached the quarterfinal of the Europa League. So, last summer, they signed 4 players: Alexis McAllister, Dominic Szoboszlai, Wataru Endo, and Ryan Gravenberch. Alexis was an unquestionable success. 35 million, absolute bargain price for one of the better midfielders in the league. Szoboszlai was outstanding for the first half of the season, and then he got injured. And when he came back, he didn't have the same impact. Endo was a mixed bag. He had some very good games. He had some games where he looked like he'd won a raffle to get to play. And then he had some games where he was just okay. And Gravenberch had a couple of good Premier League appearances and was largely poor. He did start the season well in the domestic cup, League Cup, and the Europa League, playing against lesser opposition. But when he was playing against Premier League teams, he did largely look out of his depth until a couple of decent spells in games. Not good games, but good spells in games late on in the season. All things considered, that one doesn't look a very clever transfer. The Endo one looks like what it was, which was a bit of a panic buy. But a solid backup. Szoboszlai will come good, and McAllister has already come. They let James Milner, Naby Keita, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, and Roberto Firmino leave on freeze. They got 40 million for Fabinho, and despite the fact that the reported fee was 12 million, I believe they got about 4 million for Jordan Henderson from Al Ettifaq, where obviously he went flopped before moving to Ajax, where he then flopped, and apparently is now looking for a move away from there. Max Woltman, Leighton Clarkson and Paul Glatzel all left the club, and Leighton Stewart all left the club for pretty small fees. They loaned out a whole bunch of players. Of those that went on loan in the first half of the season, Owen Beck did very well. Sepp Vandenberg did very well. That's pretty much... Oh, and Tyler Morton did pretty well. Of those that went in January, Carvalho did well, Yaros did well, Chambers did well, Beck did well again, and Nat Phillips did pretty well at Cardiff. But all in all, not great loans chosen by the club. Season began in promising fashion. They drew 1-1 away to Chelsea. A little bit lucky to get the draw. Were outplayed for large stretches, but should have had a penalty when Nicholas Jackson handled the ball in his own box, but for some reason it wasn't given. Then they won 5 in a row. They beat Bournemouth, they beat Newcastle away, they beat Villa, they beat Wolves away, and they beat West Ham. Now, the win up at Newcastle, I think at the time we thought that was going to be a bigger deal, because I didn't feel like they'd lose many games at home. In the end, their home form took a bit of a dip. But in the circumstances where Liverpool were down to 10 men and 1-0 down and scored 2 very late goals through Darwin Núñez, it was a very, very good win, considering Van Dijk was sent off in 28 minutes. The win over Villa, for me, was the most comprehensive performance of the season. The first defeat came on the 30th of September in a 2-1 defeat away to Spurs, where they went down to 10 men on 26 minutes, then scored through Luis Diaz, and that goal was incorrectly ruled out because the VAR thought that the on-field decision was onside when it was offside and decided not to change it for whatever reason. Youngmin Son put Spurs 1 up, and then Liverpool had a second player sent off in Diogo Jota, who received 2 yellow cards in 2 minutes and was dismissed, and yet Liverpool still held on and still held on. Cody Gakpo had equalised just before half-time, which should have put Liverpool 2-1 up going into half-time. And then Liverpool went down to 9 men on 69, but they held on and held on. But in the 96th minute, Joel Matip put the ball into his own net, deflecting a Pedro Porro cross. At worst, Liverpool should have got the draw from that game. But in all reality, they should have won that. Horrendous referee. The Jones red card was the first. The Jota one I didn't really have a problem with because he got booked for a stupid foul and then committed another stupid foul a minute later. Now, the first one you could argue maybe wasn't a free kick. The second one absolutely was, and it was just very stupid. And because he'd been booked and then fouled someone straight away, I actually didn't have any complaints about it because his own stupidity got himself sent off. From there, then, they go unbeaten all the way through to February. They draw away to Brighton. They beat Everton at home, beat Forest at home. Very disappointing draw away to Luton, but very fortunate to actually get that draw, needing a late Luis Diaz goal. Then they beat Brentford 3-0. They drew 1-1 away to Manchester City. They beat Fulham 4-3 at home. They went away to Sheffield United 1-2-0. They beat Crystal Palace away from home. Then they had two disappointing results. First, they drew 0-0 at home with Manchester United, a game in which they absolutely battered United but could not finish to save their lives. And then they drew 1-1 at home with Arsenal. Now, Arsenal were the better team for about 7 minutes in that game, and then Liverpool pretty much dominated. Mo Salah equalised. Gabriel had put Arsenal 1-up. Mo Salah equalised. And then Liverpool were denied a stonewall penalty when Martin Odegaard handled the ball in the Arsenal box. And the excuse was made that he was falling. And apparently, when you fall, you bring your hands into your body. I've never seen anyone fall like that. Genuine. I have never seen anyone in the act of falling bring their hands into their body. Because that's not what happened. Martin Odegaard swiped the ball with his left hand. It should have been a penalty. And Liverpool should have won that game. They did also then miss an absolute sitter in a 4-on-1 breakaway where Declan Rice filled his shorts, backpedaled for 40 yards, did absolutely nothing to stop this Liverpool break, and Trent hit the crossbar when all he had to do was tap it home. Then Liverpool beat Burnley 2-0 away. They beat Newcastle 4-2 at home and broke the Premier League record for XG in a game. They went to Bournemouth and won 4-0. They went to Chelsea. They played Chelsea at home and absolutely demolished them. Should have been 5 or 6 that game. Chelsea gave up, which was quite a thing to see. Then they went to the Emirates and lost 3-1 against Arsenal. It was 1-1. Saka had scored Gabriel own goal to equalise, and then Liverpool gifted Arsenal their go-ahead goal through Martinelli. Trossard scored late on after Konate had been sent off. Then Liverpool beat Burnley 3-1. They went to Brentford and won 4-1. They beat Luton 4-1 at home. They beat Forest 1-0 away with a very, very, very late Darwin Núñez goal that caused all Forest fans to cry. Then they drew 1-1 at home with City and were once again denied a stonewall penalty in the dying seconds of the game when Jeremy Doku kicked Alexis McAllister in the chest. Absolutely a stonewall penalty. Unbelievable that it wasn't given. They beat Brighton 2-1 at home. They beat Sheffield United 3-1 at home. Then they drew 2-2 away with Manchester United, a game in which they were comfortably the better team, were cruising, gave up 2 goals and needed a late penalty to salvage the draw. They lost at home to Palace. They beat Fulham 3-1 away. They lost away to Everton in an absolutely shameful performance. They drew 2-2 with West Ham. They beat Spurs 4-2 at home. They went 4-0 up and then seemed to decide that they were just going to allow Spurs back into it, but finally got themselves right. Drew 3-3 away to Villa, having gone 1-0 up, then 1-1, then 3-1 up. They gifted 2 late goals to John Duran, and then they beat Wolves 2-0 on the final day when Nelson Semedo was sent off, and that changed the outlook of the game. All in all, finishing third is disappointing. Third was the floor for this team. They were never going to finish lower. They should have finished second. And if the major incidents, the penalty against Chelsea, the penalty against Arsenal, and the penalty against City had gone their way, along with obviously the Spurs game with the disgraceful decision regarding Diaz, they would have finished level on points or 2 points ahead of Arsenal. Now, if they finished 2 points ahead of Arsenal, they would have finished level on points with City and lost the league on... Actually, no, they wouldn't. No, they wouldn't. I'm wrong. Because if they had let's just say that's 7 points. Let's say it's 3 wins. Beat Spurs, beat Arsenal, beat City, because they had penalties. They should have had penalties to win all 3 of them. And the draw with Spurs. Let's put it down as a draw with Spurs. Liverpool would have finished second because Arsenal would lose a point, drop to 88, and Liverpool would finish on 89. And City would finish on 90. Now, if they beat Spurs, they would have won the league. That would have added 8 points. No, 9 points. 9 points to their tally. They would have gotten 91 and beat City's title by a point. But, look, the bottom line is Liverpool had too many lax performances, too many poor drop points, and didn't deserve to win the league overall. In the FA Cup, they beat Arsenal 2-0. They beat Norwich 5-2. They beat Southampton 3-0. And then they lost 4-3 to Manchester United, a game in which they went 1-0 down, then went 2-1 up, then absolutely dominated the game and should have been 4 or 5-1 up, then let Anthony score to equalise in the 87th minute. Then Harvey Elliott put them back ahead. We go into the second half of extra time. Liverpool are ahead. And then Rashford scores. And then Ahmed scores. And Liverpool lose. Disastrous stuff. In the League Cup, they beat Leicester 3-1. They beat Bournemouth 2-1 away. They beat West Ham 5-1. They beat Fulham 3-2 on aggregate. Then they beat Chelsea in the final through a Virgil van Dijk goal. So they did take silverware from the season. In the Europa League, they beat Lask 3-1 away, Union St. Gilloise 2-0 at home, and Toulouse 5-1 at home. Then they lost 3-2 in Toulouse, though they had a goal disallowed that should not have been disallowed. Then they beat Lask 4-0 at home, and then they lost 2-1 away to Union St. Gilloise, which to that point was the only legitimate loss they'd had that season. Because the Toulouse game should have ended 3-3, and the Spurs game should have either ended in a 2-2 draw or in a Liverpool win, depending on how that second half plays out. I don't think Jota gets sent off if Liverpool are 2-1 up. In the round of 16, they beat Sparta Prague 5-1 away and then 6-1 at home, 11-2 on aggregate. And then they played Atalanta and got absolutely pumped 3-0 at home in the first leg before winning a meaningless second leg 1-0 away. Yeah. The story of their season is a lot of injuries and poor management. Poor tactical planning, poor squad management, poor in-game decisions, poor preparation. Liverpool constantly going behind. Constantly unable to keep a clean sheet. As I said, they didn't deserve to win the league, but the fact of it is that if the big decisions that went against them, almost all of which have been apologised for, they would have finished either first or second. Yeah. They've got work to do this summer. They've got Alisson. They've got a great goalkeeper. But Queven Kelleher will probably leave at Adriana's league. Now, I think Vitislav Jaros can step in and be the backup goalkeeper, but they will need to sign a number 3. I think the best option is Alex McCarthy of Southampton, who's available on a free. And he's homegrown. He's pretty experienced, 34. I think he would make a ton of sense to come in as the Scott Carson for Liverpool. In defence, I think it's time to ring changes. Matip is gone. Reece Williams will go. I think Tsimikas should go, and I actually think Robertson should probably go as well. But I only expect one of the left backs to go. I think it's very possible that Joe Gomez will go as well. They've also got Sepp Vandenberg and Nat Phillips to sell. Now, it looks like they're looking to bring in 2 defenders. Lenny Yoro is 1, and he would be a great signing for them, and he solidifies the centre-back, especially if Gomez stays, because then you go Yoro and Konate right-side centre-back. They can split position, play 50% of the games each, which is ideal for Konate with injuries and ideal for Yoro with his age and to develop him at the right pace. Left side, you've got Virgil, you've got Kwanzaa, that's ideal. Right back, you've got Trent, you've got Bradley, that's ideal. Left back, then you would have the left-footed defender they bring in. It does look like they're looking for a centre-back type. So Calafiore is the name doing the rounds at the moment. They've been linked to Capi and Pacho and Colwell and Dinashu and others that play that way. Calafiore would be perfect. So him as the starter, and then whichever of the left-back stays as the backup, which means that you have an attacking left-back change available to you. But Joe Gomez can be the other left-back. If Calafiore's out and you still want to be defensive, you have him. If you wanted a defensive right-back, he could play there, so he's got that half the minutes. Then obviously he can play at centre-back as well. So if Gomez stays, that defence will be in great shape. And there's enough players to sell who haven't contributed really that it shouldn't cost a ton of money to do. So if Kelleher goes, let's say that's 20 million, let's say Tsimikas is 15, and let's just say Nat Phillips brings in 5, that's 40 million. That covers Calafiore. Now, Step Vandenberg, they're looking for 20 million. So if he goes, that means they're only looking at a 40 million spend on goalkeeper and defence, because Yaros is already owned. McCarthy would be free. So Allison, Yaros, McCarthy, set. Trent, Bradley, Gomez, or Trent, Gomez, Bradley, set. Calafiore, Gomez, Robertson, Calafiore, Robertson, Gomez, whatever, set. Yoro, Konate, set. Van Dijk, Kwanzaa, set. Plus Gomez can play either centre-back position. So you're looking at about a 35 million net spend to get Yoro and Calafiore and McCarthy and have that defence locked in for years to come. Now, Robertson, I would say next summer, if he stays this summer, next summer he goes, but that's an easy place. You're looking for a backup left back, and maybe one of the young backup left backs they have, Chambers or Scanlon, develops enough through a good loan that you can just slot them in and you don't need to spend any more money. They need to address defensive midfield. Everybody's aware of that. And Endo is a fine backup. Then in the other position in the double pivot, you've got McAllister and you've got Jones. Besetic is the 5th central midfielder at best. Is that the right role for him? He might need to play. But maybe just say, right, you're going to play a ton of under-21s this year. Because this year is going to be about building fitness and building your capacity to play on a regular basis. They need to buy a defensive midfield. That's going to cost 50 to 60. Right wing, you've got Salah, you've got Elliott. It's a question of who's the 10 and who's the left winger. Szoboszlai will be 1. Gakpo's the backup at left wing. But is Szoboszlai the starter there and he's buying a 10? Or is Szoboszlai the 10 and you're buying a left wing? Luis Diaz should be sold. I think Carvalho should be sold because I don't think he's going to get the opportunity. That should bring in 80 million between the two. You could go and get Kvaratskhelia, play him left wing and Szoboszlai as the 10. Or you could buy Elise, play him as the 10 and Szoboszlai left wing. Now, a lot depends on that. I think he has to sign it. For me, I think I'd be sitting down with him saying, look, Mo, if you don't want to sign a new contract, and we engineer a move to get you wherever it is you want to go. If it's PSG, no problem. We will work a deal and we won't try and rip them off. We as long as we get a fair fee, and even if it's 80 million, 70 million, whatever, let's do that. Because you can't afford to have him leave for free. Now, I think Virgil's a definite sign a new deal. Trent, I'm unsure of, and I would probably have the same conversation with Trent. If you want to leave, if you're going to leave in a free, can you tell us now? So we can go and work a deal with them where they'll buy you for less than your worth, but we at least get something out of it. I think Trent is more likely to re-sign, but I'm not certain he will re-sign. But if you could move on Mo, then you go Elise right, Szoboszlai 10, Gavica left, with Elliott, Gravenberch as the backup 10, and Gakpo as the backup left winger. Pretty strong. So the starting three will be dynamite. The backup three is pretty strong. If Gravenberch and Gakpo get their arse in gear. And then up front, you've got Salah, or you've got Darwin, and you've got Jota. Now, if Salah re-signs, that takes care of that. You don't have to worry about it. So it's just one in that attacking group. Either Elise or Kvaratskhelia, somebody of that nature. And that's your big signing. But that's paid for by the sale of Diaz and the sale of Carvalho. Now, in midfield, like I said, you're looking at a defensive midfield that's going to cost 50 to 60 million. But Tyler Morton will probably bring in 10 to 12. So that at least knocks some off that. So let's say you're left holding the bag for 40 for the midfield and attack. Could even be less because Elise is going to buy it. And if it's Elise, you could have a 20 million surplus, which means you're only really paying 60 million for the entire rebuild. To get Yoro, Calafiore, let's just say Varela and Elise. It would only cost you an outlay of 60 million if you sell Kelleher, Vandenberg, Phillips, Tsimikas, Morton, Diaz, and Carvalho. And you'd have massively improved your team. And if Trent resigns and Mo resigns, you're set up for the next block of time. You might go into next summer in a situation where you want to sell Gravenberch and sell Gakpo because they haven't been good enough. But they'll bring in 50, 60 million between them. 60, let's say. 35 for Gakpo, maybe 25, maybe 40 for Gakpo, 20 for whatever. That's enough to buy two really good backups or cover most of the cost of two really good backups. So you could end up in a situation where you go into the 25-26 season with a completely rebuilt squad where Robertson's gone as well, and those two, and you've been able to replace the three of them very, very easily without spending anything. So you're looking at a 60 million net spend over 2 years to completely reshape the squad and be in a much stronger position forward. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to the new season. I'm excited about the change. It was the right time for the manager to go. If anything, he might have stayed a year too long, but he did win a trophy in his last year, so he got to add that to the collection. But look, it was the right time to go, without question. And I'm just glad that the fella that was his assistant is gone with him. I'm just glad he's not the manager, because that wouldn't have been good. Right, back after this. Right, welcome back. We are 20 minutes into Germany versus Hungary, and as things stand, it is 0-0. Luton have announced that Rob Edwards has signed a new 4-year contract to stay with the club. And I think that's a really good move from them and a good move for him as well. He's done tremendous work since getting there, obviously bringing them up. And let's be fair, they were never going to be good enough to stay in the Premier League. But they came up and they played their way, and they didn't budge off them. They came up with a clear plan, almost accepting the likelihood of going back down, but making the presence felt while they were there. And I think it's great that he has signed on for another 4 years, shown his commitment to the club. I don't honestly think he'll be there 4 years, because I do think there will be a club that comes in for him maybe in about a year. And at that point, he moves on, if they don't come straight back up. Atletico Madrid have turned down a bid from Chelsea for 20-year-old striker Samu Omoro Dion? I think I've got that right. Have I? Omoro Dion? Apparently he was 34 million, including add-ons, and that's less than half what Atleti are looking for him. So, not surprising that they've turned it down. Interesting that they seem to have moved away from their pursuit of John Duran. You would question why they're not looking for a more ready-made striker, because they don't have one, and that was a major issue for them this past season. But look, this is what they seem to be doing, so fair play. 13 people have been banned as Uganda have broken a South African-based match-fixing syndicate with the help of FIFA. 13 individuals, including 10 referees, 1 player and 2 administrators. They've been handed 90-day provisional bans, but are facing much longer bans than that. Mark Howard has signed a new 1-year contract extension with Wrexham. Fair play. Made 49 appearances last season as they went and won their second straight promotion. They're now a League One club, which is, I think, fantastic. And, I'm watching This is Wrexham at the moment. I'd watched season 1. I didn't watch season 2. I don't know why. And obviously season 3 is out now. So I'm in the middle of season 2, and I actually just think it's a great show. And I think the two owners, Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds, they come across as genuinely likable and as genuinely caring. So I think that's really good, and I sort of want to see Wrexham do well. I know a lot of people want to see them fail, but I actually want to see them do really well. So yeah. Right, we'll finish with the gossip then. Chelsea are interested in Luis Openda. It's some team talks, probably crap. Ukrainian winger Mikhailo Mudryk could leave Chelsea as the Blues pursue Michael Elise. Why would a right winger coming in mean a left winger leaves? And who on earth is going to buy Mikhailo Mudryk? He's got 7 years left on his contract. And given that Chelsea thought they were being really clever in putting 7.5 or 8 years amortization on the deal, the huge fee they paid for it will only have a year and a half of amortization on it now. So there's probably still over 50 million outlying on their books. So there's no chance they're going to sell it. Borussia Dortmund are hoping to bring Pascal Gross back to his homeland this summer. Southampton have asked about re-signing Danny Ings and are willing to pay up to 6 million for the England striker. That would make sense. I think sounds like a good deal. Manchester United are considering whether to make a move for Genoa's Spanish goalkeeper Josep Martinez, despite Inter Milan already having agreed personal terms. Leave us alone. We want to keep him. I don't really understand. We want to keep him. Leave him alone. I could see him wanting to go to Inter. But, I mean, why would United want him? They've got Binder as a really good backup. Everton have agreed a deal to sign him or Agunum from Aston Villa. I don't know if that's true. Belgian midfielder Amadou Onana is set to leave Everton, with Arsenal having made contact with Toffees who want at least 50 million. I don't believe there is only Arsenal in for that. I think there's other clubs in for him, but we'll have to wait and see. Leicester are close to appointing Graham Potter as a new manager. That was yesterday. Today, we hear that they're moving in on Steve Cooper. So, obviously, something has happened between them and Potter. Ajax are interested in a cup price move for Wout Weghorst. I think that's one that might make sense for everybody. West Ham are keen to sign Jack Clark. Again, that one could make sense for everybody. Arsenal are prioritising midfield reinforcements after missing out on Benjamin Sesko, and it sounds like they don't have the money to do both striker and midfielder, which is what I predicted. And it sounds like they want to sign defensive midfielder, which again is what I predicted, because as I said many, many times, Declan Rice is not a defensive midfielder. Sheffield United have opened talks with Nottingham Forest over a deal for Joe Worrell. That one makes sense. And Birmingham are interested in signing 32-year-old English goalkeeper Ryan Aslop from Hull. Okay. Manchester United remain interested in Josh Zirkzee, but the High Commission involved in any deal is complicating the situation. So apparently his agent is looking for mental money, which is why Milan have sort of backed away from a deal. Amad Diallo is set to remain at Manchester United as a key part of Eric Ten Hag's plans. And if that's true, good, because he's a really talented player. Apparently Karl Hein has agreed a new deal with Arsenal, so he'll stay as their third choice keeper. Chelsea are set to reject a bid from Atletico Madrid for Conor Gallagher. I don't know if it's true, but I saw somewhere it was 15 million, which, you know, I don't rate him all that highly, but he's worth more than that, even with a year left. Conor Gallagher has told Chelsea he will not be forced out of the club amid interest from Atletico Madrid, Tottenham and Villa. And we do have reports today that Tottenham have moved for Weston McKennie, who was thought to be going to Villa as part of a deal for Douglas Luiz. Now, I think Villa can still swing that deal in their favour. I've said before, I wouldn't be taking the package that of Illing Jr. and him. I think there's a much better package they could get for Douglas Luiz. So my assumption is that Weston McKennie is the alternative for both Villa and Spurs to Conor Gallagher. But if I'm Villa, I am sitting down with Juve and I'm getting Matthias Sula in that deal. Because that is what they're getting offered. I don't care how much money is involved. What they're getting offered just doesn't help a whole lot. Illing Jr. is all right. McKennie's all right. But go and get a player that's really going to move the needle for you. And that's what Matthias Sula could do. And as I said, ask about Dean Huijsen. If they're willing to sell him, ask about it. Force the issue. Get two elite young players, not cast-offs that they don't want. Now, again, Illing Jr., he's fine. He's okay, and he's got potential. I mean, he is young. He's only 20. He's versatile. That can be valuable. He can play either side, fullback or wing. But I don't know that he moves the needle as much as someone like a Sula. If it's Illing Jr. and Sula, fine. But go and push the boat and try and get Sula. That'll do me for today, folks. I will see you all tomorrow. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.
Sports Social Podcast Network.